Senator Gary Peters wasted no time in that tense hearing. He went straight for the issue many Americans have been whispering about, but few have dared to confront publicly. Why are federal agents allowed to operate in American streets with their faces covered, no badges, and no visible identification? His question cut through the usual political theater. Because if the public can't even tell whether the person grabbing them is law enforcement or a criminal in disguise, what does that say about accountability in this country? Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, leaned on a familiar defense. She explained that agents are being doxxed. Their families are harassed. Their personal safety is under threat. And while that's true, doxing is a serious danger. Peters made it clear that the solution can't be hiding every face behind a mask.
Are covering their faces to protect themselves from being doxxed. And certainly I fully understand those concerns and I appreciate those concerns, and I think they're real concerns. But I'm deeply concerned that the lack of identification during these activities is dangerous, both to the public as well as to the officers themselves. The public risk being harmed by individuals pretending to be immigration enforcement, which has already happened. We've seen that happen. And these officers also risk being injured by individuals who think they're basically being kidnapped or attacked by some unknown assailant. So my question for you, Attorney General Bondi, is given the number of DOJ employees currently conducting immigration enforcement activities in support of DHS, how are you going to ensure that the safety of the public and the officers, if they continue to not follow required protocol to identify themselves as law enforcement?
And Senator Peters, that's the first time that issue has come to me about them you're saying that law enforcement officers, when they cover their faces.
Right.
I do know they are being doxxed, as you said. They're being threatened. Their families are being threatened. You know,
Again, I get that, but they have to identify themselves. There is an insignia oftentimes. They have to identify themselves as law enforcement. People think, here's a person coming up to me, not identified, covering themselves. They're kidnapping. They'll probably fight back. That endangers the officer as well. And that's a serious situation. People need to know that they're dealing with a federal law enforcement official.
Senator, I would be happy to look at that issue with you and talk to all of our partner law enforcement agencies, but I can assure you that if they're covering their faces now, it's to protect themselves. But they also want to protect all citizens, and that's something we can work together on to ensure the safety of everyone and their families.
Yeah. And it's protecting themselves, too, if they identify themselves. It's not just the person, because someone's going to fight back if you just think a strange person with their face covered is throwing you into a van. Most people will resist that.
It sounds like you have a specific case, and I would
be
happy to talk to you about that at a later time, because I'm not aware of that happening. But I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
We'd be happy to do it. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Earlier this month, the administration announced it was launching an effort to ramp up immigration apprehensions by shifting more than 5,000 personnel from across federal law enforcement, including approximately 2,000 from within the Justice Department, away from their typical duties to focus on immigration-related cases, including targeting individuals whose status had been terminated by this administration. This effort is on top of previous directives for department officials to focus on immigration enforcement. Many of these officials impacted by these directives, unsurprisingly, say they're being forced to turn their attention away from other national security missions, including counterterrorism and cyber security. There has been public reporting that hundreds of FBI agents have been reassigned to immigration-related duties, and raising real concerns among agents themselves that the shift could hinder investigations into terror threats and espionage by China and Russia. And we have also heard concerns about resources being reoriented at the state and local level. Attorney General Bondi, I know the Justice Department officials have said that this president can walk and chew gum at the same time, and that you continue to hold all criminals accountable regardless of immigration status. But numerous reports on the ground from career government officials and some basic common sense would beg to differ. Given the attacks on Iran over the weekend, this issue has become even more salient, with threats from terrorists inspired by Iran, cyber attacks, often by Iran itself, or additional efforts by that regime to go after government leaders. So my question is, how are you ensuring that there are enough resources focused on the full range of national security threats, and there's no shortage of those, when so many of our DOJ resources are being reallocated to immigration enforcement?
I talked to Director Patel or Deputy Director Bongino 7 days a week. I speak to my National Security Division. We meet every single day. Emil Bovey, who's currently with us, is doing an incredible job in the national security space as well, helping us. We are doing everything. We are using our resources on all fronts. And when you say immigration, immigration is going hand in hand with the people who have come into our country through our borders. I think just over 1,500 illegal aliens from Iran are here. Chinese individuals, Russian individuals, people from every country. That goes hand in hand with immigration, identifying them, finding them, and getting them out of our country. Will national security be compromised? Not at all, Senator. It will be increased. It will be enhanced. I can tell you, every day we talk about this multiple times.
Because anonymity doesn't just protect officers. It creates a brand new risk for everyone else. Imagine you're walking home and a masked figure in tactical gear jumps out. No name, no insignia, no explanation. They say they're law enforcement. Would you believe them? Or would you resist? For many people, it looks less like an arrest and more like an abduction, and that isn't some wild hypothetical. It has already happened. There are documented cases of individuals impersonating ICE agents to intimidate immigrants, scam families, and even stage assaults. When real officers strip away the proof of who they are, they hand impersonators the perfect disguise. Peters saw the danger in that, and he refused to let it slide. But the hearing didn't stop with masks. Peters expanded the conversation to something far bigger: the reshuffling of America's national security resources. Earlier this month, the administration announced a sweeping change. More than 5,000 personnel from across federal law enforcement were reassigned to immigration enforcement. That included over 2,000 pulled from the Justice Department, and among them, hundreds of FBI agents. Not just any agents, the ones tasked with counterterrorism, espionage investigations, and cybersecurity defense. That raised the stakes immediately. Because while immigration enforcement may generate headlines, the work of countering cyber threats, terrorist networks, and foreign espionage doesn't pause. Those threats evolve every single day. Hackers don't log off just because agents are suddenly busy with raids. Extremists don't delay their plans because resources are redirected. Peters' concern was simple but profound. Are we chasing short-term optics at the expense of long-term security? Bondi's answer was blunt. Immigration enforcement, she said, is national security. She pointed to individuals from hostile nations who crossed into the U.S. illegally. Iranians, Chinese, Russians, people, she argued, who could pose dangers. By finding and removing them, the DOJ was strengthening national security, not weakening it. On the surface, it sounded logical. But Peters pushed back with a deeper question. Do we really believe that nationality alone equals guilt? Should the place someone was born automatically make them a suspect? That's where the cracks began to show. Because while headlines focus on border crossers, the most dangerous threats often don't cross a border at all. Cyber attacks can be launched from behind a computer screen anywhere in the world. Domestic extremists can radicalize online without ever leaving their hometowns. Predators and traffickers operate in hidden online markets, targeting the vulnerable while staying invisible. Those are the missions FBI agents and analysts were handling, until they were pulled away for immigration raids. And when those investigations stall, it isn't just bureaucracy that suffers. It's public safety. Peters' concern wasn't just theoretical. He connected it to recent events: threats from Iran, cyber intrusions targeting U.S. infrastructure, and espionage attempts by foreign actors. He warned that by weakening specialized teams, the U.S. could be exposing itself at the worst possible moment. Yet Bondi insisted the DOJ was capable of handling both. She emphasized that she spoke daily with her national security team, that the FBI had set up new 24/7 centers across the country, and that no threat was being ignored. Her confidence was unwavering, but the doubts lingered, because even if meetings are happening and centers are staffed, the math doesn't change. Every agent assigned to an immigration case is one less agent tracking a terror cell. Every analyst diverted from cybersecurity is one less defending hospitals, banks, and government networks. And every dramatic raid broadcast on the evening news comes at a cost that the public rarely sees. It's not just about reallocating resources, it's about redefining priorities. And that's where Peter's question about masks connects back to the bigger picture. Transparency and trust aren't just ideals, they're necessities. Law enforcement works because people believe in its legitimacy. A badge, a name, an insignia, those aren't details. They're proof that power is being exercised under the rule of law. Strip that away, and what's left? Fear, suspicion, chaos. If you can't tell whether the person in front of you is a real officer or an impersonator, you don't feel protected. You feel hunted. And fear weaponized in the name of safety isn't justice. It's control. Bondi tried to reassure Peters that the system was intact. She invited him to see the FBI's news centers, promised that cyber threats were still being tracked, and argued that immigration enforcement and national security go hand in hand. But no matter how detailed her answers, the core question remained. Is America safer when resources are spread thin and transparency is treated as optional? Or are we just pretending to be safe while the real dangers quietly grow stronger? Because let's be honest, masked raids make for striking images. They look tough. They play well on TV. But they don't stop hackers from breaking into networks. They don't dismantle terrorist plots brewing online. And they don't rebuild the trust that disappears when citizens can't tell the difference between legitimate law enforcement and someone in a costume. That kind of theater might create fear, but it doesn't create security. The heart of Peter's challenge was a choice. Do we want a justice system that balances enforcement with accountability, that protects both borders and freedoms? Or do we want one that confuses intimidation with order, secrecy with safety, and headlines with progress? Because in the end, this isn't just about whether an agent wears a mask. It's about whether the system itself is recognizable to the people it's supposed to serve. And that's what makes this hearing resonate beyond the walls of Congress. Peters wasn't just sparring with Bondi over a policy detail. He was exposing a pattern where oversight is treated as a nuisance, transparency as a weakness, and public trust as an afterthought. A pattern where law enforcement becomes performance, where power hides its face, and where the people are left wondering if justice is being carried out in their name or in spite of it. The real danger isn't only the threats that come from outside: Iran, Russia, China, hackers, extremists. The real danger is when the system built to protect us loses sight of what it means to serve the public. When agents hide their identities, when resources are pulled from vital missions, when safety becomes more about image than reality, we risk creating a country where fear takes the place of trust. Senator Peters forced that question into the open. And while Bondi's answers may have reassured some, they also revealed just how fragile the balance has become. Because safety without accountability isn't safety at all. And power without visibility isn't strength. It's secrecy. Maybe the real issue isn't whether agents are covering their faces. Maybe it's why our leaders are so comfortable covering up the truth.